Hello, everyone, and welcome to this historic day. We are 30 minutes out from the end of the Buenos Aires half marathon. Just earlier today, we had a great lineup of Yamif Gajelcha, Gemechu Dida, Tadis Worku, Barakat Nega, and Robert Kiprup Koech. All of these guys had times in their half marathons between 58 minutes and 1 hour. And then, of course, we had Yamif Gajelcha, the former world record holder. He had a 57:30 that was then beaten by Caplimo with a time of 57:20 earlier this year. And going into this race, there was a lot on the line. There's a lot of implications for what's going to happen when Yamif Gajelcha does his Valencia marathon in December. There's a lot of stories regarding the London Marathon that we had earlier this year in April, where he ran a 1:59:41 compared to Sebastian Sawe's world record breaking 1:59:30. And with the Berlin Marathon happening next month, and then we have Chicago and Valencia, this is going to be the beginning of what's going to be some major races. And so we were going to see today on how Yamif Gajelcha looks 3 months out from his second marathon of this year. And he ran a 56:51. Oh my gosh. And so we start out, I was waking up and I was so excited about what was going to happen, because if he was going to run a 1:59:41, I knew that we were in for something. And so going into today's race, we didn't exactly know what it was going to look like in terms of what pace he was going to run and what this was going to look like, and if there was going to be any potential challengers. If there was going to be a challenger, it was going to be Gemechu Dida, who has a personal best for his half marathon at 58:39, which isn't super competitive in terms of like competing with the world record or competing with Yamif Gajelcha, but he did run a very fantastic 26:42 for the 10,000 meters, which is a very good time. So there was a chance that potentially he could have challenged him. And literally like 17 minutes into the race, it was clear that there was going to be no challenger. Yamif Gajelcha, he dusted everybody. And so it was basically a solo run, not even a third into the race. And then we look at like, how is this going to look like in terms of pace? And let me first of all say, and I say this with some grace, but the broadcast for the Buenos Aires half marathon wasn't exactly the greatest quality. Starting out, we had like 2 camera angles for the first 15 minutes. We could not even see what was happening with the elite runners for the first third of the race, basically. It was just stuck between 2 static camera angles, both of which were just pointed at the start line. And so we spent like literally the first 5K plus just looking at a bunch of the starters. And with all respect, I love these starters. I love the amateurs. It's great that they're running, but we're here to see the elite runners. And we didn't see anything for a while. And then eventually they did get to showing the elite runners. And then there was like large moments where they couldn't even show you what was happening with the time. They didn't even show what the time was. And then when it came to the pacing and like the mile markers, the 5K, 10K, 15K, they had no idea what was going on. And then eventually, maybe like 5 minutes down the line, they could show you something. But we did get like 2 of them. First of all, we've got the 10K mark, which isn't quite halfway, but the 10K mark, he crossed in 27:19. And this was about 8 seconds short of the 27:11 that was marked from the 57:20 world record that Caplimo set earlier this year. And so he was actually going in a little bit slower than what Caplimo ran. But then over that last 11 kilometers, it was a massive negative split. Another thing worth noting is what happens with the course and what happened with the weather. The course was actually a little bit slower than what you would traditionally see from previous courses, because they altered it so that it could go more through a lot of the city. It would make for a more interesting atmosphere of seeing what was happening in the heart of the city. And there was actually also some pretty like jagged turns. And so the makers of the marathon course, they even conceded, they say it's probably going to be a couple seconds longer than it otherwise would have been. But we did this because it would allow the runners to really look at the Buenos Aires city. And then in terms of weather, though, this was perfect. It's 42 degrees Fahrenheit. The equivalent of that would probably be, let's see, would it be about like 5 degrees Celsius? And so this is like a perfect temperature. And so he goes through the 10K at 27:19. And then over the course of that last 11K, he didn't burn out. He just went faster and faster. And then finishing with the first, well, we'll see, but the first, probably in all likelihood, the first officially ratified sub 57-minute half marathon. So Yamov Gajelcha was already, with his debut being a sub 2 hour marathon and running a 1:59:41, we already knew that this guy was already knocking down the doors of being one of the greatest runners of all time. He was a former world record holder in the indoor mile. He now officially has the 10K world record on the road after the old record held by Ronix Caputo was deemed invalid because of doping. He's now the 10K world record holder. He has a very, very competitive times on the 5K on the track and on the road. He's second all time in the marathon, and now he is the world record holder in the half marathon. We are going to have some conversations very quickly. In fact, we're having it right now on if this is the greatest runner of all time, because I do believe that he is. And it's impossible to run a 1:59:41 and say that that was a fluke or that, oh, we'll see what the other thing, because that's already just so insane that we already know that this wasn't a fluke. But now after today, running a 56:51, this is not a fluke. We are seeing generational greatness. And it's just incredible to see the ability of him to just completely shatter all types of expectations. I was going into today and there was no doubt that 57:20 was going down. The question was it going to be sub 57? Was it going to break Kiplimo's, was it going to knock on the door of Kiplimo's unofficial world record of 56:42? And, he just completely shattered all types of expectations. So now we move on into what this is going to look like as we get a very packed marathon schedule in September in Chicago, in September with Berlin, in October with Chicago, and then in December with Valencia. So in just about 20 days, we're going to have or 20 days and some change. We're going to have the Berlin Marathon. You can bet that Sebastian Sawe, he knows that he's going to have to put up a great time, and Berlin is probably the best track to do it. It's the best course to do it. Sawe's going to have to put up some fantastic time because he knows that, this dude is out for blood. Yamov Gajelcha, he's 29 years old. Sebastian Sawe, 31 years old. Sawe is still absolutely in his prime, and he just set the world record, of course. He's absolutely going to be able to run some very fast times, and if the weather permits, it's going to be quite exciting. But this really sets the tone. 56:51. What can you even say? And so it's going to be really interesting to see how Sawe runs when he runs in September, how Jacob Kiplimo runs when he runs in October, and then, of course, when Gajelcha runs his second marathon in December in Valencia. It's so exciting to see everything that's going on. It's so exciting to see how quickly this landscape is changing. It's absolutely insane to just knock 29 seconds off the half marathon world record just like that. I'm just completely in awe. And so it's going to be very exciting to see how we look at as the races and as the potential records change as we finish out the 2026 calendar year. And I'm still digesting and I'm still soaking in the greatness of Yamov Gajelcha. It's so fantastic to talk to you, and you can bet that I will be covering the Berlin Marathon, the Chicago Marathon, the Valencia Marathon, and more. Thank you all, and I'll see you guys next time.